because I've been carrying a little bit of COVID weight.
Yeah,
A little
most
bit of
people are.
COVID weight. So I'd gained a little bit of weight. So I dropped that weight. So I'm like, okay, now it's X amount of time, so I can start, trying to make some apps pop,
Yep, yep.
or at least 1.5. Oh, dude, I can't.
Can't even sit up straight.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
it's brutal. That and like when your abs hurt, your whole like it
Huh?
seems like your whole body hurts because you breathe and it hurts. You're
Yeah.
like, ah, it's awful.
It's like you got two broken ribs. It's
Dude, it
like
does.
right here.
It feels like someone literally punched you in the gut like 40 times. It's awful. And
And
then
I know I
when you
was
cough, it hurts.
lazy. Well, yeah, and I know I was lazy in my ab workout because it's only hurting in the top,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, just like the this part of your like right
Yeah.
below your ribs. Yeah. It's hard
There
to
you
it's hard to exercise the bottom parts of them.
there you go, kids. Don't try.
Yeah,
Another reason, just don't try.
just play games and stay inside. It's fine.
Play video games, but well, try until you get a girl.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a girl to play games with you, that's the best.
Right. Well, there
It's
you
true.
go. But try to encourage her to do it though, for
That
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
me and the lady are gonna be getting back into it too because she's not happy. She wants to get more active, and after I moved in to the house, I was like, yeah, we can definitely do that. And I've also been just so busy with YouTube and other stuff
Yeah.
and taking care of the kids. I was like, I'm making the excuses, as you can tell, not to exercise, but I really should.
That's a real thing, man. You start playing some games, you start like editing and everything, and you lose that routine.
Yeah,
It makes it really hard to
it
get back
does.
on the wagon,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah, it's definitely the hardest part about staying consistent is just like not finding an excuse not to do it because it's really
Oh,
easy to find excuses not to stay consistent with it.
it's very easy to do what you like, and not easy to, get out in the cold,
Mhm.
go to the gym, for and put in like a real workout.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's not what people are listening to us about.
No.
Look it. I'm sure people want to talk about Conquest of Azeroth.
Yeah,
I know they want to talk about the interview.
it's true.
So let's talk about a little bit the interview a little bit. So let me ask you,
Mhm.
what resonated with you out of the interview? First thing that pops in your head.
Oh man. I mean, there was so much that we went over.
Hmm.
I think the biggest thing, and we spent a little bit of time on it because after I went back and was like editing it for the video,
Hmm.
you and me both kind of seemed to really hone in on the fun and flavor aspect of
Hmm.
Conquest of Azeroth, and that liquid outer space. Gave us some background in the fact that he really enjoys fantasy. He's a big Lotro fan. He loves all sorts of Dungeons and Dragons, and he's into art and literature. So I think the thing that resonated me most about it, as fun as like the game itself is, and the classes and they're really good, and you know all the actual gameplay aside, the fact that he's willing to put fun first over like other things. Like he wants to make sure they feel good. The buttons are
Hmm.
fun to press. The classes have some silliness and some just fun stuff to them. I was like, yes, that's so good to hear a developer say that because I feel so often now modern games, especially from like more big end companies, look at like player numbers, engagement,
Hmm.
um, and these just systems to keep your eyes on the product but not really think much past it, where it's just very surface level, like I'm playing X game, but you're kind of
Yeah.
like just going through the motions. And I think that's probably what resonated with me at least the most, that fun was like such a high priority for that game. I was like, yes, that's so awesome to hear.
And that is something that I put down on my notes after that. He's a real gamer.
Yeah, yeah.
There's so many people, they look at when it comes down to paying.
Mhm.
I got to pay $50 to play a Conquest of Azeroth in Azeroth. That's a scam. Okay,
Yeah.
this is a legitimate thing. This man is legitimately working. We can say
Yeah.
unequivocally it's not a scam. He is putting out some work,
Yeah, I mean,
and he
god,
enjoys it.
he seems to. I'm hoping he doesn't get I'm hoping he doesn't get burnt out cuz the amount, like just the turnover rate of things is unreal. Like it's like 10
Yeah.
changes a day. I'm like, this guy's like a team of 10 and they're doing better than, like it's crazy, man.
Well, it's hard to gauge from a robot voice, but the words, if we're taking them at word value,
Mhm.
he's passionate.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
couple that with his labor of work that he has put in, and is passionate about the project,
Mhm.
and that is something that is, as you mentioned, so different than what we are used to, from these big AAA companies now.
Right.
Blizzard's not like that, not anymore.
Yeah, not
It,
anymore.
it's not about the gamer anymore. It's not even about the game. It's about the bottom dollar.
It is. Yeah.
And so,
I think like we could maybe touch on like monetization and how that affects games and my
mhm,
feelings about it in Conquest of Azeroth and Project Ascension, but I mean, just like, I always have these discussions with friends of mine that they always ask me, did you get X new game, like the new Call of Duty or the new Assassin's Creed or the new expansion
sure.
to whatever? And I'm like, no, I have less than zero desire to want to pursue these things because like um I have so many like at length discussions with people about the state of gaming and how um it's crazy to think that like single dev guys like Liquid Outer Space who start out just like messing around on his own thing and
Sure.
kind of developed this thing that is so surprisingly good for such a like a big scope for such a small team. It really makes me wonder where most modern video game companies focuses are they on the actual game and like not just the surface level graphics and like the pretty interface, but like the thing that keeps you invested in those games. So
Right. And he started out modding for Minecraft. I thought
mhm.
that was, like you mentioned, a lot of people end up doing that, but they don't take that fun little thing that they do and turn it into a profession.
Right.
And so I respect that. We know that that's something that he chose to do. He liked to do. It's not a job,
Mhm.
unlike Blizzard.
Yeah, yeah. It's the state of Blizzard nowadays is like I hate to say I saw it coming because I did. And I think anyone who really was objectively looking at
Right.
trends in video gaming, um, it was inevitable. And it sucks to say that,
Inevitable.
yeah, inevitable. Uh, it's just crazy to think because, you and me talked about, like playing N64 games like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and, Zelda and all these other games that, um, you didn't get to see like on such a public stage the type of crap that went on behind the scenes. You just
Mhm.
expected it's like this fantasy land that the developers and the authors and everything's just coexisting in harmony. And then because of the way that mass media has evolved over like the last 10, 15 years with Twitter and social media and all that crap, you really
Mhm.
have gotten to see like that dirty underside to it. And it's unfortunate that like everyone's golden boy Blizzard was like one of the worst perpetrators of all of the worst things you could possibly think of happening behind closed doors.
So let me ask you, because those doors are no longer closed.
Yeah,
They're wide open.
it's true.
So does that cast for you a negative light on the games that they put out themselves?
Um, I've also had this kind of discussion with my friends before, like the moral dilemmas of trying to
Mhm.
support companies that you once held so dearly and still wanted to support the games back then. Or
Mhm.
extends beyond games. It could be any sort of media. Um, I've had this discussion with somebody about this, and I've asked them a similar question because one of my favorite bands, Azalea Dying, their lead singer went to prison for 5 years for putting a hit out on
Yeah.
his wife.
Yeah, that's legit.
Crazy, right? I was like, no way, because they're like a Christian metalcore band from the early
Well,
2000s,
allegedly. Yeah.
allegedly. And so then you find out Tim Lambesis is like went to prison for it, and a lot of people were like, I'm never purchasing As I Lay Dying again. And like people quit listening to all their old stuff well before, you know, maybe this whole thing had transpired and what the events leading up to it. But as far as like me wanting, like casting a doubt on the Shadows of the Games, I really try my best to separate the art from the artist. But like I would say like close to 80% of the time, the artist's intentions and like live and like what's going on like around them, their livelihoods always get expressed in their art. It's almost inevitable that what you're going through ends up coming through in some kind of artistic medium. That's why, like, when people go and record albums, if they're in a dark place or some really shitty things happen to them, you know, even though it's not like they're not giving words and dates to the exact events that led them to be in that mental state when they recorded it, there's always allegories in there and all these different things that kind of relate to them. So I feel that if people are making these games, like, perpetuate this horrible, horrible place to be a part of, it makes me almost adopt that mentality when I'm inside their virtual world, because I'm like, I understand what the real world environment is around the virtual world that they're creating, so I can't, it's hard for me to like not, you know, draw parallels and be like, I know what's going on over there. What's any different than what's being expressed here? So when I'm in that environment, I'm like, it just feels dirty, right. I guess.
CD.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful analogy that you used. As I Lay Dying. I'll just give you my answer to my own question by saying I still listen to As I Lay Dying.
I do too.
I still listen to it. I still listen to Brand New. You know, I like Brand New, even though he not allegedly anymore. Went after hundreds of 16-year-olds.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, doesn't change the art. However, if I could choose between two equal bands or two equal games, something in here, if we do not relate to that, I am not that type of a man. I'm certainly not going to put a hit out on my wife. That is a premeditated act.
Yep.
And deserves everything that he gets. But something tells us that we do not relate to that person. We will choose the opposite if they're equal.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to Blizzard, I'll tell you this right now. If Blizzard was putting out games that I thought was good and innovative and all of that, I'd play. I'd pay. Give us something new. Give us something that's exciting. If commercial WoW, if it gave us something that I liked, gave us something like that, I'd play it.
Yeah,
no problems. I would play that over Conquest of Azeroth. Sorry, however, they're not Conquest of Azeroth. Conquest of Azeroth has given us something unique, something good. It's based off this. Not only that, but it's run by people that I can relate to, gamers.
Yeah.
Blizzard's not a gamer company anymore. They're doing cube crawls.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, please. It's funny is because Project Ascension, I don't know if you saw it, but the developers put in a little jab at Blizzard in the loading screens. It says, we don't do cube crawls, but something on the loading screen. It's like, nice, that's awesome. One of my old viewers, old subscribers, Eketel, he was around. He really got me into Median XL. He just subscribed again, by the way, thank you. And he said, holy shit, I haven't listened to As I Lay Dying in years. I mean,
they haven't put out music in here.
Well, they did actually. After the year right before Tim Lambesis ended up going to prison, they put out a album called either Newfound Power or it's Powerless Rise. I can't remember exactly which one it is. I don't know if it's like.
Then?
Well, no, he was still like a free man. And then all the shit went down, and then he went to prison. I think it was like either they were being litigated while they released it or something. And then after he came out in 2018, maybe it was 2019. I'm pretty sure it was 2018, but he came out with album Forged in Fire, and it had that hit single like My Own Grave. You haven't heard of it?
Don't like it.
It's not as
Felt like
good. It's not as good.
Mhm.
Like Tim Lambesis, like I mean, he's evolved in the fact that like it's more of a modern sound. It's cleaner, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. I don't know how
No.
you feel about it specifically, but after the original singer from Frailward's Collapse and
Mhm.
Shadows of Security uh, left the band, Jordan, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. That guy, that original singer, made that band for me. I thought his clean vocals were so super epic, and then this new guy comes on. It just sounds too like Bullet from a Valentine. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
A
it.
little too, a little too alternative
Yeah,
in
and
a mainstream sense,
he didn't
yeah.
have like. I really loved old Asley Dying. I guess we can move on after we talk about this, but I just love that band so
Right.
much. Like really old Asley Dying, so like Frailward's Collapse, when their very first bigger hit. Tim Lambesis actually mixed and mastered it himself. They weren't in a record label. They just produced. The record label just put their name on it and produced it for them. Excuse me. I liked the old singer because Tim Lambesis way back then, he was really dirty with his growl vocals, and then it was so like
Raw.
diametrically opposed by this guy's like really high pitched, super crystal clear kind of gritty singing, and it was such this like nice balancing act where it's like this nasty guttural shit and then this like really nice singing guy where it's I don't know. It was just a perfect pair.
It
And then after they left, I was
it's a
just like,
dichotomy that blended.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think Eketal used, has a good comparison there. He
Yep.
used,
Bring
like,
Me the
Bring Me
Horizon.
the Horizon.
They're
Yeah.
now like a radio band, dude. Like
Yeah.
Ollie Sykes. Have you seen Ollie Sykes recently? Holy shit, he looks like Justin Bieber, bro. He cut his hair
Yeah.
like in that weird like bowl cut they always end
Give
up
him the
somehow
BB.
doing. Dude, it's
Yeah.
awful. I was like, what are you doing, Ollie? Like,
One of these days,
oh
guys, on
man.
this show, maybe even next time, we are going to play our. We'll put out our own music because each of us have been in touring bands before
Yeah.
in the past.
I
So,
I actually found like probably 4 months ago
hmm
a Google Drive or a Google Dropbox
yeah.
file of my band's first demo.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I gotta hear it.
I was like, no shit. I thought that was lost to time. Like because I didn't get I got one physical copy and it was
Hmm
lost years ago after we like put it out because it was mostly in that like 2000 when did we put it out 2012 13 like MySpace digital music era where it was
Oh
like
gosh.
huge. So we didn't really have a lot of physical copies and I thought I lost the digital files and then I randomly found them. I was like, no way, dude. I was so excited. Oh, they're so bad but they're so fun to listen to.
We need to have a music podcast.
I think we
See,
should.
when I came up when I was 16, I was in my first band was my first bands were heavy in like the punk scene, and
Ooh,
then
nice.
I gravitated towards more of like the screamo.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, it was a weird time in my life, but that's what got the most traction at that time was the screamo stuff, and
Yeah.
so like, we
Yeah.
toured with like Thursday and all that. So that was fun times back then. But
Nice. That's awesome.
so jumping back
Yeah.
to what we were saying. So what is your thoughts on WoW? Why don't you play commercial WoW?
So I'll try not to get into like the meta of why I don't play it too much, but I'll touch on it a little bit. I
Please.
actually remember the exact moment when I quit.
Okay.
The reason is it was during Cataclysm. We were doing what was it? The first raid not BWL, Black. Oh man, I can't remember. Whatever the first one was in.
Black Fathoms Deep.
No, it
Or
wasn't BFD. That's a dungeon in vanilla.
Mhm.
It's whatever. The first raid, that in Cataclysm outside of the Throne
Okay.
of Four Winds. We were doing a 10-man, and we were. I was the main tank and the raid leader at the time, and we were like Team B in like a three 10-man guild. And Team A had like the officers and like the GM, and my
Sure.
buddy Rathicus, one of my really long time friends, he actually worked for my parents when we owned a Quiznos franchise, like when I was like 16. He worked for me. and we gamed, played WoW, whatever. We were raiding together in that expansion. He was playing a Fury Warrior. I was playing a Prot Paladin at the time, and we were raid leading. So he was like, I have a team too. I'm part of it. I don't want to raid lead, but I don't want to deal with these guys. But I also want to have all the benefits that was being in a guild in Cataclysm. You had like the, have raid will travel, guild bank. It was, there was a lot of benefits being in guilds. So we were doing the first raid, and we had like surpassed Team A. So we were Team B, but we had beat them. Like we were progressing at a quicker rate. We were starting to get into like heroic ratings and stuff. And there was one DK. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but my off tank was a DK, because at the time DKs were like, there was like a certain combination of talents and gear that was basically making you invulnerable to magic damage at the time. And the raid we were doing, there was a specific fight where it was just heavy magic damage, and we were getting brick walled by it in heroic because he wasn't showing up. He was kind of fickle. I think he either like didn't care enough or had some real life things. Whatever.
What do you mean by fickle?
Like just he would just show up for like 3 weeks at a time, and he'd be like, I'm here to play WoW. I love you guys. Hardcore shit in a bucket type guy. And then just disappear without a word. No Discord message, nothing. Just gone. Like,
Gotcha.
he was either fully dedicated or not there at all. It was very weird.
Hard to have someone like that you rely on.
Yes, yeah. So he was my off tank. And I remember my buddy Rathicus, like, we got in, it was like 9 out of 10, and he was like, you know what, fuck this. Logs off, Alt F4s, gets off comms, cancels his subscription right then, and I was like, well, if he's quitting, the only reason I'm raiding is because I'm raiding with him. So I also Alt F4'd, and then canceled my subscription, like, within 5 minutes. So that's the exact moment I quit, was during that Cataclysm, that first part of Cataclysm.
You two bastards just totally wrecked that guild.
Yeah, we just like the raid lead, the main tank, and our highest DPS that we were like funneling all the really powerful gear to, just fucked off. Like, we're just like, we're gone, man. But as far as like why I don't play retail WoW anymore, I think it's because, and I might be in the minority for this, like, the content outside of raiding got super stale and boring. Like, for sure, like, really boring. And the biggest thing for me, an expansion, I judge an expansion's worth on its dungeons. Because dungeons are something that you always can come back to in your downtime, even if you don't particularly need anything, you want to level an alt, get some, gear for an off-spec, whatever. Or just run the dungeon because it's fun, it's engaging, like the mechanics. You can speed run it. You can do so many different things outside of like achievement runs, just things that you and your friends do. And that's why I really gravitate towards like TBC and Wrath of the Lich King, because their dungeons were exceptionally good.
There hasn't been many expansions that were as good as those two of any games of all two when it comes down to dungeons.
Yeah, and I mean just like the detail put into TBC dungeons and Wrath of the Lich King dungeons really made just the everyday activities interesting. You never really felt like you had any downtime, and not only that, just like the world itself was gorgeous to be in. Like, TBC's landscapes are, like, to this day, 15 years later, I've played 10 different private servers, Nagrand and Zangarmarsh, all these different, biomes. Really, like, every time I, fly over the mountains and the scenery changes, because it's still, to this day, is just so inviting. And I'm always like, oh, I get this, like, excitement. I'm like, yeah, let's see what's in Blaze Edge Mountain or whatever, or go down to Shadowmoon Valley. And same thing with that Lich King. Like, he went from like Borean Tundra up into Grizzly Hills into Zoldrak. Like, there was such this like clear distinction. Like, this is like a new area with all these new possibilities. And I just felt that like more modern versions of WoW really took away that sense of making the environment and the little stuff interesting outside of just having it be this tedious check the box type things to get ready for the raid. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna be straight with you. I have not liked WoW since Wrath of the Lich King.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like the idea of WoW. I like WoW up to Wrath of the Lich King.
Yep.
Everything after that was. I know people love Cataclysm. You know, a lot of people love it,
Mm-hmm.
and things after that. But everything after that was to me garbage.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to make things. They were force feeding, giving everybody here. Take this level XYZ. You could have this. Everybody is just the same class.
Yeah,
I mean,
essentially. Yeah.
it's the same type of thing. There was no uniqueness. I'm the type of person that enters a game, plays a game, enjoys a game for PvE. That's why I'm drawn to a game, but I stay with the game for PvP.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything. The PvE was not enough to keep me going. You absolutely needed to do your dailies.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do your dailies in order to get to be relevant in
Yeah. For anything.
PvP and
Yeah.
anything. And you just can't level up in life
Yeah.
with while leveling up in WoW.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be, see, that's what I think I like about like COA and that type of stuff. Like it's not, and there's always going to be needs to have gear and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff.
Yeah.
But it hasn't gotten to that point like it did in WoW, or like does in really any modern MMO
Yeah.
nowadays. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I mean there's so many problems with how most modern games are being developed with like this arbitrary, and I don't understand where this industry term had gotten so ubiquitous with like these AAA big name titles, is this
Sure.
player engagement. It's like when you watch any sort of news outlet, after enough times they all start repeating the same like little sound bites over and over and over and over, just to drill it into your head that this is the thing. And this arbitrary like player engagement is like this just etheric term that really doesn't mean anything. Of course you're engaged.
Whoa! I'm gonna cut you off here for a second. You're gonna have to tell me what etheric means.
Oh,
Like I'd like to think of myself as someone who knows some words, but that's a new one for me.
it's like etheric is just like this this concept or something that's just kind of. Have you ever heard somebody? It's in the ether. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like, have you ever heard of the word zeitgeist before?
No.
Okay, so
And in Spanish, no.
no, like etheric basically just means like this thing that really doesn't have a physical form, or even like it's like a thought. Like it doesn't have a defined form. It's just like this concept of a thing that
Got it.
exists randomly because someone says it exists. It's like Bitcoin. Like people have made Bitcoin worth
Right.
$6 billion or whatever because some
And it's
asshole
fake.
said it was. Yeah, because it's just some thing, right?
Especially the meme coins.
It's kind of that. So this
Okay.
this term that people use where it's like this player engagement is just. I feel like the game itself has gotten so disconnected from actually having fun with a game.
It's a job.
Simply logging in, checking the boxes, and then logging off is all they care about, because really at the end of the day, like they have, statistics that are sent to the server every single day. X person, like there's this many things being looted, there's this many monsters being killed, there's this many dailies, and how many of each. All this metadata gets sent over to the Blizzard servers. They compile it and they just look at like a spreadsheet. Okay, this thing is 70% of our player base doing it. Obviously, people like it. Do more of that without really reading between why they're doing it. Did you purposely design the game to where you had to do this activity, like in like Legion or like in BFA or even now in Shadowlands, like the domination slots and the what do they call it, the Azerite armor? you made it such a like core fundamental part of the expansion where your player power is so heavily reliant on this thing. Of course people are going to do the thing that gives them the quickest route to the most power, and this happens to
Right.
be this one activity. So they look at it just on the data. This thing's doing really good. Make the whole game that.
So
With
they funnel that into
yeah.
take something that is very small, and then it goes a reverse funnel and goes back out into where
Yeah.
it's the top end of the funnel. That's the whole freaking game.
Yep.
That is, oh, you are full of analogies. Oh,
Thank
and
you.
by the way, I love this guy Ekatal.
Yeah, dude. Ekatel's awesome. I've known this guy for like 2 years now. He's popping off in chat, dude.
Dude, he said something. Oh, at first I thought he said that I adore dailies. I'm like, but then I
He'd
saw, oh,
abhor. Yeah.
I abhor
Yeah.
dailies. And yes,
Yes.
correct.
Yes. Dailies, and it's so funny is because dailies back in TBC, it was like the first like actual use of the word dailies, right? It was like the first time dailies were introduced into a game outside of just like, Classic had these pseudo dailies where you want to go do your rep grind, and like those repeatable quests that were available only every 24 hours. So
But
like,
oh yeah, go no, continue. I'm sorry.
it's fine. I was just saying in TBC that was like kind of like the first dose of dailies, and back then, and even extending into Wrath of the Lich King, dailies were like almost its own end game where people could, if you want to like, not much player power was based behind it, but like just that base, that like bottom level of power. Gold equals power in most MMOs, and dailies was such a way of just kind of accumulating
power.
it. Exactly, you accumulated power very slowly because like you did a round of dailies, you did 25 dailies, and that set you for 3 days of WoW or for raiding, right, or dungeons or PvP or whatever you do, consumables, flasks, enchants, gems, whatever you want to do. It kind of like sets you up for like the next 3, 4, 5 days worth of playing. And it was kind of like this cyclic thing where you do like your dailies, and you wouldn't have to do them, but like it was just like, it's going to take you an hour, and you might have 5 ults. Go ahead and do it, and then funnel all the stuff to one guy. So you kind of had like these like little farms of gold, slowly kind of just peppering your bags with a little bit of gold here and there, and it just kind of like, it would keep the flow of the game kind of like in this very smooth, a little bit up and down, like, oh, it's raid day, log in, and then kind of like during the week you're kind of like doing dailies, doing rep grinds, whatever you want to do, maybe to get that next meta gem, whatever it is. But it seems like the more and more the game has progressed, especially since there's so much content in World of Warcraft, and we kind of touched on, like, I think maybe off camera, where like the world is getting so big now that the amount of finite space in this virtual world is like becoming so limited, where now it's like this gameplay where it's just like the absolute pits, right? And then it's just this hard spike up where it's like you're just drudging through the mud, and then you hit your domination slot for your main legendary, and all of a sudden your character is like literally 40 times more powerful than before. And then that's the new plateau. Then you're like, okay, I have my domination slot in my legendary boots. I have now ascended to this plateau. And then there's nothing else past. It's all just, again, just slog. It's that new normal. The shitty part was down here. You spiked, you leveled up, you went Super Saiyan 1. Super Saiyan 1 now is your baseline. You don't think about it. And then it's just drudgery all the way until you hit your next one. You go Super Saiyan 2.
Drudgery.
That's how WoW is. It's these like huge steps of like just power. There's not like this very nice kind of like gradual upward of like, oh, I've reached the pinnacle, but it took all this time, and like every little step kind of led to it. Now it's just like check the boxes, and eventually you roll that RNG dice enough, and you get your thing, and then you just wait for that to happen again. With every alt you have, there's no delineation. It's all the same shit with a different coat of paint. You know what I mean?
I think Ekatal mirrors my thoughts. He says that the problem with dailies for me is that it forces you to do something every day. It forces you to do something every day. If you didn't want to do it, to do something instead, they shove it and force some daily task down your mouth, where by the time you finish the daily, you no longer want to play the game, or you don't have time to play the game.
True.
You can't enjoy achieving something, so you finally get a piece of gear or something that you got for your daily or something, just to
Mm-hmm.
use gear as an accomplishment or something. Then what?
Yeah.
Next day I still have to log in and devote an hour
Mm-hmm.
minimum, into doing something, and then maybe I can play with that gear, you know? And so yeah, I agree with you there. So let me ask you about non-commercial. We're gonna jump back to COA here.
Okay.
What's your give me three favorite classes
Three
right
favorite
now.
classes. Oh, right
Let's talk
now,
about from the fun aspect.
just fun, not power level.
Yeah, we'll talk about power level on another show, but straight up most fun to play.
Okay. Number one right now, Venomancer. The
Yes.
funnest class I've ever played in
Nerf
any version of WoW.
Venomancer.
Nerf it to the ground. Fuck that class. Too strong. No, Venomancer is like it is like it is like the epitome of silliness, and that's why I
Mhm.
love it. Like you can't take the game seriously when you're a scorpion running around with two daggers stabbing stuff. Like you can't. You cannot take the game too seriously. Um and the buttons, all like every button you press on that class feels so good.
You
Just
literally did it. Here.
you're literally like this. It's so good. And when you walk, you do this with your claws. You're like
Yeah.
in this weird thing, and then you randomly do this while you're walking. So you're like Shakira, like your break. It's just hilarious. It's so it so perfectly encapsulates fun and power, and they're very powerful. But just
Oh, yeah.
fun aside, you cannot take the game too seriously, and it literally forces you to have fun. And that's
Yep.
what I love about Venomancer. It's so silly. I literally am smiling. Like when I'm playing, even by myself, and I'm not streaming or making, I'm smiling because it's just so silly. I'll go get
That's hard to do. It's hard to find that in the game nowadays.
yeah, and Venomancer it's so
Mhm.
perfect, and I mean, you literally become a spider, a scorpion, a Nerubian. Like there's just so many silly things to it that it literally forces you to have fun while you're playing it. And maybe it's because I'm biased towards it because it's like my first character got to 30 back in phase 2, but it's so silly. It's like unlocking big head mode in THPS2. Once you do, you can never play without it. It's just you know,
It's
uh,
God mode.
it's God
Like
mode. Yeah,
like Hextacol just said.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
your favorite your
A broken
favoritizing a
class.
broken class.
you know, it's. I would say on power level right now, yes. Compared to most classes, it's very powerful. We're not going to get into that. I don't want to get into that.
It's fun to be powerful.
It's fun to be OP. I mean, it
Yeah.
is. I say it so
God
many.
mode.
It
It's
is.
God mode.
It's fun. Cheats.
Try
There's
playing Duke Nukem without God mode. It's not as fun.
there's a reason everyone plays GTA and puts all the weapons in. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's fun. So Venomancer definitely number one as far as just
Mine too.
pure fun. It's just so silly. And I advertise people to play it so often outside of power. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, it's really good, but I promise you, like, just play it. It is so silly. It is just like it's on par with original vanilla BWL when Nefarian would turn people into giraffes and crocodiles and shit. It's that, and it's that raid mechanic all the time. You're popping in and out of forms. It's fantastic. Second fun class.
Let me choose the next one.
Yes, go ahead.
So,
Yeah, we'll go back and
take
forth.
turns. Yeah, we'll take turns. Venomancer is on my list, so I don't have to say that. I'm gonna say Tinker.
Okay.
For the same reason. It's so silly watching you put up place like charges and everything, and just watching people like boom.
Yeah, and the bomb effect is this big on your screen. It's literally your entire screen.
It's absurd in a good way. You can set up your turrets and like run on the other side of the battleground and it's still think.
Yep.
I mean, that it's just fun stuff.
Yep.
It's just straight up fun. And you play as a gnome tinker. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't not play a gnome tinker. Like if they
Nope.
we might be able to touch on this later, but people want all classes to be all races. I don't. I want them to have like identities to classes. A tinkerer, like maybe a dwarf could do it because dwarves are also very industrious.
Sure.
And maybe orcs or goblins if they introduce it, because goblins are kind of like the horde version of gnomes.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe down the line, goblins could be tinkerers because they both have goblin and gnomish engineering, so they like tinkering with stuff.
Let me help.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely tinkerer, but it is a silly class. It is very silly. My brother would love it. He loves playing like Choreborn in like in Overwatch. Like he loves building turrets and mech suits and bombs, and he loves that shit.
Things go boom.
Yep.
All right, what's your next one?
Man, this is so hard because I've gotten all 21 now to max level again.
Bragger.
Second one, I'm just trying to think. This might sound a little silly because it is basically a retail class, but Pyromancer. Have you played Pyromancer yet?
Oh, of course. Boring.
You didn't like it? Oh man.
I mean, like I said, it doesn't change enough.
Sure.
You know, it doesn't change enough for me to get excited.
Yeah.
Over it. Excited.
I mean, I can see that, but it's so spammy and just so just you're literally like Stormbringer is kind of similar to it in the fact that you gotta have like these like constant things, but literally like when I'm playing, you know, Pyromancer, it's like like as fast as I possibly can, hammering 40 cooldowns. Like my hand is just going like this, right? Because it's so spammy and there's so many combo pieces to it. Like this leads into this, into this, into this, and it really feels like it really feels like you're literally ascending as you're playing it, because like you start kind of like getting more crits, which leads to more haste, which leads to more procs, which leads to more bleed. Like all these things you're kind of just slowly growing to power, and all of a sudden you just come like this just machine gun of spells and fire, and you're hurling giant bolts of fire and these huge boulders of rock, and shit's exploding, and you're literally melting. Like you get a thing called melt flesh and like ignite soul. It's just like it's so edgy and so fun, and you're so spammy. I know it's just a fire mage, but
I'll say this. Gospel, he did that class for us, but I have one at level 18. Usually stuff really starts getting good around level 15.
Yeah.
And like almost every class, once it gets to like level 15, it's like, okay, things, you know, you get the good stuff, you know, your abilities start getting powerful, and it gets more exciting at that point. I just felt that it didn't start escalating for me. And so
fair.
I say that now, you know, because I say that it's much like the same old classes, and now I'm gonna go be a hypocrite, and I'm gonna say my last one is gonna be Ranger. So it's so fun. The jump mechanic on that it's just so much fun.
The tracker's leap, where you leap forward.
Right. I mean, it's just so much fun. I will jump for something about me when I'm playing a game. If I'm like waiting for a battleground to start, I'm jumping.
Dude, I know people that do that. Why?
Just
knock it off. You're not doing anything.
I have ADD. And so like legitimately, if I'm standing around, I'm like, doop, doop,
I do.
Or,
I know
or
people that
in
do
a
that.
Circle.
I know people that do that. I don't understand it.
So I am like, I will literally use Tracker's Leap and jump for the sake of jumping.
Yeah.
It's just it's very satisfying.
Sure.
And that's the thing. Like I feel it fulfills something inside here. It's satisfying to my ADD and to my obsessive compulsive disorder. So
yeah, that's true. Ekatel said, "Don't judge," because I like when I'm streaming, I'll like play the drums on my mouse and on my keys. So like whatever's playing on Spotify, usually I'm like keeping the beat with my fingers and stuff. So I can't judge too bad. But when I'm in like the game, I'm not jumping around or anything, because I'm I don't understand. Like when I was raiding with one of my very first guilds in Project Ascension, yeah, same thing. Like all of my raid was like jumping and moving around while I'm like explaining tactics or like getting something explained to me. and it shouldn't be distracting, but like I'm trying to focus and like visualize like, okay, if like a room is a circle and he does a 3/4 thing, I'm trying to visualize in my head as looking in the 3D space of where I need to stand, when to do all this stuff, and I'm just these little fucking they're just jumping around like, stop it, I can't. Oh man.
So did you do your 3?
No, that was 2 for me.
All right, hit me with your 3rd.
Oh man, it's so hard. So are we talking about current or like what they were before? Because that could change my answer.
It's current. That we have to go with current because
Current,
that's
okay.
where we're at right now.
Someone said Rune Riftweaver. I think he's talking about Rune Master.
Right.
Which would have been my 3rd in phase 2, but they ruined it in phase 3. In phase 3, my top 3rd.
I wouldn't say they ruined it.
We could talk about that.
Next show.
Next show, sure. Man, it's so hard to narrow them down because I love each one for various different reasons. I would
First
probably
thing that pops.
I would probably say it would have to be like an almost dead even tie between Chronomancer and Witch Doctor.
No, you can't do that.
You
Choose
suck.
one.
You suck.
Well, you just took the cop-out answer already. Choose one.
Yeah. Shut up. Probably Witch Doctor. I'd put above that. Chronomancer would probably be a 4th, but Witch Doctor definitely is like, and this kind of comes back to the fun of like playing a game. They have Witch Doctors in Diablo 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it did, like, a lot of like the similarities between D3 and like the Witch Doctor and COE are kind of there. You're like throwing stuff. Like they have a spider jar that they throw in D3, which you can turn into like poison clouds and stuff like that. Which there's like a potion toss for the Witch Doctor, but you can also throw it on yourself for a heal, stuff like that. You're like shooting poison darts. You're summoning snakes at some point. You can like you put up wards and totems and like
shrink heads,
put hexes on people. It is like if someone was like, if someone says you're playing a Witch Doctor, every single ability perfectly encapsulates Witch Doctor. Nothing seems out of place. Maybe like you shouldn't unlock this here and there in levels or like whatever, but like when it really comes down to like hexes and just the like, when I think Witch Doctor in an MMO setting, they have nailed it perfectly. Every single ability fits perfectly, and shout out to Liquid and the guys who designed that class. Might not be the most powerful, might not be the most game breaking, but it is one of the most consistently fantasy like driven classes in that game. Everything works for that class. No ability feels out of place.
It's eloquently spoken.
Thank you.
So how about we say this? I am going to ask you a question that relates to COA, and then think about this. We are going to, before we leave, we're going to choose our top 5 favorite movie badasses. Top 5 favorite movie badasses. I'm just throwing this on him because I'm the main host and he's the analyst here. So I could lead him into all of it, and I know he's going to have strong opinions. But before we do that, before we get to my question, that's before we do that. I'm going to say it, depending on if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like it. If you like it on Dry Deck TV, subscribe Weird Gaming Adventure, because that helps us make more content in the future.
True.
Speaking of making content, I'm going to ask you this question.
Sure.
So, obviously you have at least a character, correct? Or I know at least you did have a character that had Dry Deck in the name, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I try not to play anything anymore that has a Weird Gaming Adventure or WGA. But how do you feel when people purposely target you in battlegrounds and stuff?
It's not necessarily that people target me, because I don't really PvP all that often.
Oh, okay.
But I can touch on having my name, like my online handle in my character's name. So like my main that I raid on Area 52 is just Drydeck.
Sure.
And it's been that way for like since I came back to playing Area 52 like 2 years ago. Excuse me, because that was like a name that I had for years. But having my name in game, like, it's weird. I have people ask me, and I can't even say like, I don't even know what like, Mr. Beast or like all those really really huge people deal with.
Cutie pie.
Yeah. I would imagine they get the most ridiculous questions, but I get some really ridiculous shit. Like I've had people like confide in me that they want to like have an affair with their wife or their husband and stuff. I'm like, why are you telling me this? Like, like they're like, I'm subscribed to your channel, and we'll get in like a little whisper thing, and then he'll like like he or she will say some really weird stuff. I'm like, thank you, okay. Like, no, man, I guess
I've never had anything
really?
like that in any game that I've played.
It's weird,
like,
man.
Any game that I've covered, I've never had any conversation like that, at least.
Yes. Oh, Eketel just perfect. Is this still viable? And it's like a 3-year-old video, or
yes.
or getting comments on something like 2.5 years old or like 2 years old that is like so irrelevant now, or like those are the best. I try not to like. I don't want to make fun of anybody because if obviously they're reaching out or just saying stuff, but it's silly when I get like questions like, I mean Eketel, he was there when I was playing Median XL. Like I still get comments on a video from like, I think it was like my 7th video on my channel from like 1.5 years ago about a build that I made in Median XL, and like people like not only do people ask if it's still viable, people will then actively shit on the video and me.
Right.
Saying this build sucks, don't listen to him, without looking down when it was published. It's hilarious. Like, this shit doesn't work anymore. Look at the publish date, dude. Of course it doesn't work. It got removed or changed or something. It happens all the time. It's hilarious.
Change. I mean, this is clearly like even from one patch to the next, oftentimes.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I'm a very friendly guy. I'm a nice guy. I have a lot of energy, and I have fun in my videos. So I don't ever want to make or alienate anyone.
Yeah, of course.
But my goodness, man, like it's there's just too much conversation. I cannot play as Weird Gaming Adventure anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's just there's just too much conversation. And I do a lot of battlegrounds. And look, I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a great player. I'm just an average player, average at everything. I'm not, what? I'm average. I play enough to be competent or more than competent on many occasions. But it's always like they will straight up attack me. They'll be like 4 or 5. They would rather just attack me than capture the flag.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, dude, you suck. I'm like, well,
yeah.
There's all you guys like thinking around, and they're just dancing around. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm good.
Something similar that happens to me all the time, and it's really because like I've been putting out build guides, and it's a weird like space to make build guides about a game that changes quite often, especially on like something like Project Ascension, even though it doesn't change at such a rapid pace. Even just like a number change here or a functional can vastly change something. It's a weird place to be when you like, because the most popular things on my channel are build guides because I put a lot of time into them. I do a lot of like the grunt work, researching, moving things around, doing hours worth of DPS tests, damage taken tests. It was like a tank build, healing tests, like all this stuff.
Crunching the numbers.
I crunch the numbers and put the math out behind it. But like this is, I never claim it's like the best because that'd be silly because tomorrow it could change.
Sure.
It's just like in that unique snapshot of time when I make that build guide, it's like to the pinnacle of my playing ability and like all of my knowledge goes into it. And I try to translate that into something digestible for people. The one thing I get more than anything is people constantly like messaging me, sending me personal DMs, basically telling me I'm a shithead and say I'm better than you because I did 300 more DPS than you or whatever, and your build shit because of this one talent point or this one
Uh-huh.
spell taken. And I don't take it personally because
There's
like,
all sorts of variables that are
yeah,
involved in a scenario.
yeah, and it's like I don't mind when people want to like say I have the best because it's a natural human instinct. You want to be the best at what you want to do. You want to be the tip top, right? And I tell people all the time, I'm a very good player, but I play with people constantly that are X times better than me all the time. And I don't claim to be the best. I'm just very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like in that like middle ground between like the average player and the very, very high end. So when I make these build guides, it's like this unique snapshot in time. It was good then, a year ago. Update your context or ask me, how did this change, whatever. I'm more than happy to, tell you if it's changed or not. But specifically about DPS, and I think this probably comes back to people's like mentality when it comes to DPS players, because we're both tanks. We don't give a shit what our numbers are as long as we're not dead at the end of the day. Something about a DPS player, if he even has 50 more DPS than you, he will never let it go. And I'm like,
It's the
dude,
EP.
I'm like, chill, bro. Like, he's like, or like, I think one of the builds, like Explosive Shot Hunter, was one of my more popular videos. Someone
Right.
went and said, like, made this like book long post, and this like a year ago I made this, okay, explaining why like the math behind one of my talent points is wrong by like X percentage, and he got
Mm-hmm.
like 200 more DPS than me. I'm like, okay, document it, make a video, and put it out and say Drydeck TV is garbage. Don't listen to him. Like, do something. Don't
Right.
just
No,
message
don't do
me.
that.
Don't just
But
message me in a personal way and say you're garbage because I do 200 more DPS than you. I'm like, cool. I never said I
can
was the
you
best.
can you imagine if you or I was Asmongold, or even to a lesser extent like McDoubles?
Yeah.
At least Asmongold doesn't put out build stuff, and he doesn't make himself like, hey, I am great, that type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, but I think when you are putting out guides, which a build guide is, it's a guide,
Yeah.
but you still have to use your own, it's something that guides you. It's, you
Mm-hmm.
still have to use your own thoughts and ideas, and it's scenario based. It's not going to work for every type of situation.
Right.
So yeah, there is that. But
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was a fun little topic that
Yeah.
for us to cover.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
it'll probably get worse as time goes on, I'm sure.
and not for me. I don't make as many COA videos anymore, and
Yeah.
certainly not as much as you. So
Dude,
you'll have to
those
take
those
that
have
cross.
some volatile responses, the
I
COA.
I have never had anybody say anything negative in COA. Now, the Project Ascension videos that we've put out, people like thought that we were stupid.
Yeah.
Foulfire,
Yeah.
foulfire,
Yeah. Well,
foulfire.
the COA videos really haven't really been like negative and as in the community is like mean per se.
Hmm.
It's just weird because when I make a class review about the
Hmm.
class, people consistently try to tell me my experiences are wrong. I'm like, I can't cater my words and my experience to what you expect me to have as an experience. If I had this experience with a class and I felt like it was clunky or whatever, people
Hmm.
constantly try to tell me you're doing it wrong because you didn't do this. You don't have the absolute maximum bisque gear and all this other stuff. Specifically about COA, it's a very weird microcosm where you're basically trying to make this uber twink, and people try to treat it like you're rating like world first in retail WoW, like you're cutting edge and like what you say is gospel. It's so bizarre. I've never been a part of a tech alpha that has this level of like perfection required for people to take your opinions with any sort of validity. It's so weird. I'm not
I
nothing
think
against people. It's just it's very strange to me.
I think since this, we are in alpha, but it's so much more than alpha. So I think people expect it to be like, or they treat it at the game as if it has been out in this incarnation for years.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's true.
Because it is a clean game. You know, it's clean. There's not look at their animations, and there's some stuff that's messed up, and you know, obviously things are overpowered and X, Y, and Z, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so they treat it like it's retail WoW in many occasions. So.
Right. Right.
Okay, let's have some fun here.
Yeah. Let's do it.
We are going to end this with we are going to draft. I am a fantasy sports analyst, and so for my fantasy sports show, we always draft things. Draft things. So that's what we're going to do on this. We're going to draft our top 5 favorite movie badasses of all time. Would you like the first pick? We're going to go back and forth.
Sure.
Would you like the first pick or me?
I mean, you can go for it. I'll tell you now. I don't watch a lot of movies, so my list is gonna be very small. But go ahead. You can take the first one.
Okay, well, you go first then.
You sure?
Yes, please.
Oh, Eketel just said, I remember when someone called me wrong because I did something that Drydick said to avoid in a build guide about his build that he gave me that I just wanted to put out to public. It wasn't perfect. It was just like, hey, this build works. It's cool. We should play it. And he apparently gotten flack from people. That's funny.
Because you're oh, I almost said something we can't say.
Movie badasses, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
God, I'm trying to remember like what movies I've watched in the last 10 years. It's really been that long. I really don't watch a lot of movies.
Oh man.
Do they have to be people or can they just be a character in a movie?
A character. Yeah.
Okay.
Character. Doesn't even have to be a human. Could be a cartoon.
Perfect, because that's more my my
Okay.
lane. I would say Meliodas from Seven Deadly Sins. He is a fucking badass, man. He's an anime manga adapted to anime that's on Netflix now. Excuse me. And I think the reason I'm drawn to him is because he really embodies like this meek in stature but powerful in action type character, where his appearance is very meek, but the amount of potential he has is like beyond anything.
I was just looking that up because
Yeah.
I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, Seven Deadly Sins, Meliodas is really, really cool. His character design is very dynamic. It's not one dimensional.
Huh.
He there's so many internal things that go on that he battles and ends up coming out, in various different ways. But I think Meliodas is probably one of my favorite characters in any movie, and he has animes and movies about him. So that's probably like one of my top favorite guys is Meliodas.
Okay. Meliodas.
Mm-hmm.
So I will start by prefacing by saying my tough guys are generally guys who can talk. Like
Okay.
that fascinates me. I love reading. I love books and everything. So
Mhm.
I'm always drawn to books that have protagonists that are physically capable, but they're also intelligent and they go about things in an intelligent way. So
Okay.
movie badasses, number 1 is going to be Doc Holliday from Tombstone. Have you seen it?
Have not.
Oh my gosh.
Tombstone?
Tombstone.
Let me Google
Doc
it.
Holliday from I mean, look at I'm sure you've heard of some of the phrases and stuff that comes like you're a daisy if you do. That type of thing. You never heard it? Yeah, come on.
No, I'm looking at it right now. Tombstone.
Okay.
Does this have Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer?
It's Val Kilmer's character,
Okay.
Doc Holliday.
Justice is coming.
The dialogue in that Val Kilmer has in that movie as Doc Holliday is incredible.
Yeah.
It makes you laugh the whole time. So
Okay.
look, hey, watch that. I'm telling you.
Tombstone? Okay. I'll see if I can't find on on Hulu or something. I'm sure it's probably somewhere I can find.
Oh yeah, it's like a 20-year-old movie, so
Yeah.
it's floating around there.
Okay.
All right, what's your next one?
Hmm. Movie.
The only real choice is Arnold
Yeah, I
Schwarzenegger
just
in
saw it.
Kindergarten Cop.
Cocainium. Let's cocainium. That's a good one. Probably Little John from the original Robin Hood animated film. Because Robin Hood animated film is my favorite movie ever made. I love that movie.
I still hear the song.
I
like,
do
to
too,
this
man.
day.
Like if I hear it, I'm singing, whistling it for
Yep.
weeks, and I drive people crazy around me with it. Little John, he just like the big lovable bear, and the voice actor himself. I don't exactly remember his name, but he just encapsulates that that gravelly voiced uncle, is kind of like cheery guy that you see every like 6 months. He's just a silly dude, doesn't take life too seriously, but it really comes down to it, like he can beat some people up and stick up for himself. So like he's silly, and the whole movie is obviously very silly, but it tackles some pretty severe topics if you like really dive into the sociology behind Robin Hood. But just the Little John, his whole character is just silly, and he's
Are you trying to tell me that a Disney movie has multiple meanings?
yes. Yes.
Parallel meanings?
Well, nowadays,
Inconceivable.
and it was more subtle back then. I think that of evolving landscape of children's movies have become more of like a social propaganda tool, and I don't like that at all. It's so in your face. It's not like this subtle, like just underlaying of like themes. It's just like wow, right in your face.
It's overt.
It's overt.
It's overt.
It's very,
Yeah.
and I don't like that. I don't like when things are like have some subtlety to it. Like let me think about it. Don't tell me what to think about it.
All right, we're gonna change this. We're gonna go to 3.
3,
because
yeah, that sounds
we're already at an hour and 15 minutes here. So
sounds good.
my second one is going to be, I have to choose now.
Hey, it's your question, man.
It hurts. I'm gonna go with Bond, James Bond from like Casino Royale, like the modern James Bond.
That's a good one.
Tough, but also an intelligent, stoic, but also willing to chirp a little bit.
Yeah,
Like it.
yeah. James Bond's good, man. James Bond's really good.
The modern IP was really. I hated all the James Bonds prior to that.
Yeah,
I did not want to go see Casino Royale, but when I went, the first scene, I'm like,
I'm in it. I got this. Yes.
shot the
Me
right in
do
the
it.
face, and then artistic opening. You
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
hope I didn't blow out everyone's ear.
No, you're fine. Should be fine. Oh man, now I gotta get my third one. I'm trying to think of like the movies that I'm just trying to think of like the movies that have stuck with me and that I continuously rewatch.
Yeah, nostalgia.
Like, okay, define badass. Like, cool beat 'em up guy or just a cool character?
It's whatever you consider. Hey, well, it has to be a tough guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some level of
Fair,
toughness
fair.
in there.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be a beat 'em up character though.
Sure.
Mm.
Man, it's so hard. I would probably like one of the coolest characters that I've really liked and I've went back was Denzel Washington in Book of Eli. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's blind.
He's blind, but like his approach at the reason I picked Book of Eli because it to me it feels like a modern adaptation of Fist of the North Star. I don't know if you ever heard of that old anime.
Mm-mm.
It's from like the early 80s, like late 80s, early 90s. It's a character named Kenshiro. Have you ever heard that meme, Nani? That like voice sound, that voice clip, and then all the time.
I'll be straight with you. I know Sailor Moon.
Sure. Okay. Fair.
That's my extent of knowledge about
But Fist of the North Star is this older anime. And it's the Omaira Mu Shindeu. Have you ever heard that? Like Omaira Mu Shindeu. Everyone uses it in their YouTube videos. It's like ubiquitous with internet culture now.
I
It
probably
is
wouldn't recognize it because I
it,
didn't have a frame of reference.
sure.
So
But the Fist of the North Star is like this hyper silly, manly anime. It is so over the top. It is comical in the best way, but then also extremely serious at the same time when you really get past like the very surface level part of it. And the Book of Eli, Denzel Washington, is kind of like a modern representation of it. He's like this drifter that kind of goes through this post-apocalyptic world, whether it's a physical apocalypse or like a cultural apocalypse where people have devolved into, warring tribes and all these different things that, like, but the Book of Eli is really about. Like, it's more like a breakdown of the structure of society, not necessarily like a bomb hit it, which is how it was back in the anime. Book of Eli, that character really, like, the way he handles situations is very dynamic, and it's not like he's not like this like righteous zealot who is so blinded by his own perception of the world that he wants everyone to conform to it. He's like so malleable. He's like I don't know. It's like there's a lot more to it, but I think that character in Book of Eli is a badass on so many different levels outside of just like the physicality, and he does kick some ass in that movie too. So
yeah, so remind me. Actually seen it a couple times. But now you didn't know he was blind until the end, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
like when he was okay.
yeah. When he got the Braille out and he was reading the Bible in Braille.
Right. And scribing the Bible at that point,
Yeah,
right?
if you go back and watch it now, like after you've seen it,
Right, you'll know.
there's visual cues kind of giving you the fact that like maybe he doesn't have all his senses with him, or that he's like
Right.
perceiving the world outside of his visual senses. So like there's some, but when you watch it the first time, it's like whoa, like oh my god, he's blind,
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember that, and I remember thinking at this. I'm usually really good in picking stuff up before it
Mhm.
actually happens in movies or books or something, and I remember that got me. I'm like, huh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, dude's
Yeah.
blind. Okay, my last one. I mean, it's completely goes in line with all my other ones. Is going to be Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes.
Mm,
I mean, just he is a tough guy, but brilliant. Talks, sees his way through it before it happens.
right.
I just love that stuff, man.
Yeah. That was a cool movie. Like the way they tried to make make his character that he was representing,
Mhm.
trying to make him feel relatable, like you could connect to his thought pattern and how he viewed the world. He wasn't some crazy existential genius that you couldn't relate to at all. Just the way they like kind of
It's perspective too. It's almost like you're looking at things through his eyes, and
yeah,
that's not often that you see that in a film,
yeah,
something filmed in that way.
true.
And that's the only way to relate to a Sherlock Holmes character.
Yeah.
So,
The one of the other movies that I really liked, what was it? It was a movie about Stephen Hawking.
Fear and Loathing in no, that's Hunter S.
No,
Thompson.
that's Hunter S. Thompson. It's not A Beautiful Mind. That's a different movie. It's the one about Stephen Hawking's.
Mm,
That guy was really cool. That was just an awesome movie. Being able
I
to
don't think I
see,
saw it. That's recent too. The last
yeah,
few years.
like 2016 or 15 or something,
Oh,
which is funny to think because like I still think the year 2000, was recent when I tell people like it just came out in 2000. What are you talking about? It's just like just the other day, But when like when someone's like, oh my, I have a 3-year-old now, you're thinking like, oh, he was born in 2019. You're like. Like it doesn't seem conceivable that anyone was born after the year 2000, So
to me, yeah, that's hard for me. I feel like I'm getting older now
mm,
because I'm getting older.
Jason Statham in The Transporter, Jean Reno in The Professional, Michael Douglas in Falling Down. That's my top 3 off the top of my head. Also favoring John Wick in the first movie. Yeah, a lot of people liked
Good.
John Wick. A lot of people liked Keanu Reeves and John Wick. It was
He's a bit of a tank. He's a little too much of a tank. There's
yeah.
not a. He's a dim bulb.
He's got a lot of plot armor on, to say the least.
Yeah.
The amount
But
of
great movies. I enjoyed them for sure.
yeah. I don't think I've actually seen is The Professional like a hit movie? Like where
So he's a hitman, and actually Natalie Portman is like an 8-year-old girl, and that he's trying to protect Natalie Portman. Good flick, and yes,
is it
tough.
Yeah. Jean Reno. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of that, so I might have to look at that.
Yeah, Jason Statham in The Transporter. I could see that. Definitely cool.
Jason Statham was always like the quintessential badass, like he was like the epitome of cool back in like 2006,
2006. Yeah, he looks the same over the last 15 years. Like he hasn't aged at all. It's like it's that human growth hormone.
The HGH and the TRT that he's on.
Give me some of that Tom Cruise cocktail, everybody.
Dude, yeah,
this is fun, man.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything to say on the way out?
I can't really think of anything really. I mean, I'm just it's fun just to kind of like talk with people about, all the thoughts that I've had in my head over the years about video gaming, and we could have so many more discussions about it, and it would be really cool to maybe keep doing this, because I want to see like how other people view it too, because raiding in World of Warcraft, just to get a little meta with everybody, playing MMOs for so long, especially in like a private server setting, has really taught me how to like not take everything at face value and rethink my first initial thoughts on stuff, because I'm raiding with 25, 30, 40 different people. They're all seeing it in different ways. So I would say that like doing that, especially in like a smaller setting like Project Ascension and Conquest of Azeroth, has really like allowed me to develop my critical thinking skills tremendously. So
yeah, and so we got to do this more often.
Yeah.
So everybody, speaking of more often, just go ahead and just write it up on your calendar.
Yep.
Let's talk about this right now.
Sure.
We're gonna do this every Thursday at 3:00 your time, 5:00 my time, 6:00 Eastern time.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a problem unless anything comes up with work or something. I should have it off, so should be good.
Well, let's just shoot for that. So everybody, you shoot for it as well. Put it on your calendars. For Dry Deck TV, I am Weird Gaming Adventure, and together we are Sword and Board. Real quick, who's the sword and who's the board here?
Oh man, I probably am the board because I'm the analyst. I like to think about stuff too much. Sword, you just hit shit with a stick.
Tune in next week and you'll know for sure.
All right, guys. See you later, guys. Peace out.